Hi everyone, welcome back to the Bolt Action Goods YouTube channel. I'm Nicole and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about English paper piecing, or EPP. So the moment I've been waiting for finally arrived. My Tula Pink Full Moon Forest back order bundle finally arrived over the weekend, and now I'm able to continue working on my hexagon quilt. So you may have seen the last episode where I talked a little bit about the hexagons that I'm hand sewing, and my goal to have all 50 Tula Pink fabric lines included in this quilt. I'm happy to say that now that line has arrived, I'm going to make it happen. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about English paper piecing, or EPP. This video will include some of my favorite tools and products to use for English paper piecing. Some companies provide a curated kit that already comes with everything you need to get up and going. However, I kind of curated mine a little bit as I went, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience and why I prefer some products over others. So to get started, I need to first explain what English paper piecing is. So English paper piecing, like the name implies, yes, uses papers to help hold fabric together to make really precise stitches. So here is one of the first hexagons I made for my Tula Pink English paper piecing project. And as you can see on the back, there's all those little hexagons that are holding it, so I have really nice, crisp, clean lines. So when I first tried English paper piecing a couple years ago, I was using like recycled cardstock paper and just cutting my own paper hexagon templates. However, I realized that with this project, I really wanted it to be precise and not have any manual error. So when I started out, I did cut some of my own hexagon papers. However, you can also buy them pre-cut at the store. I think this saves a lot of time, and after I create this quilt, I do plan to, remove them from the quilt before quilting, and then reuse them in another project. So these are a pretty durable material. They're made by Dritz. These are the 1.5 inch measurements. You can also find them in many different sizes. Here's like really teeny tiny English paper pieces. You can actually get these on Tula Pink's I Heart Tula Pink website, and these come as like little bundles that are kind of pre-cut squares, so then you can try out her new lines before they're even launched. That's how I was able to get a little bit of Untamed and a little bit of Full Moon Forest before they reach the market. So to start out, what I like to do is take a piece of fabric and one of my hexagon papers and line them up one on top of the other. Then what I do is I'll use a pair of scissors, fabric scissors, and trim around the edge. So what I like to do is cut it where there's a little bit of a seam allowance. So then that gives me room either to baste it using a stitch or baste it using glue. I prefer the gluing method. I think it's a lot easier than to continue stitching, and it gives me a little break. So I really enjoy these sew line markers. They are a washable glue. So once this, quilt is overall quilted and I have it bound, then I can wash it and it's not going to have that glue residue that stays in there on the quilt. So I also like this once again because once you finish this stick, it pops off and you can easily refill it with another glue capsule. They come in 2 packs like this, once again by Sewline. They come in a couple different colors. This is the blue. I've also used the yellow. They work pretty similar. There's really not that big of a difference. The only thing I've found is sometimes the yellow is so vibrant that it sometimes shows through the fabric, but of course once it dries you can't even tell. I like watching to see when these go on sale and then buy them up in bulk, so then I have them, and I haven't had issues with them drying out or anything. So what I'm going to do is glue a little bit on the edges of this hexagon, the paper piece itself, and then what I'll do is I'm going to fold it down, and you'll see that I put glue on this side as well and this one. So what I like to do is kind of just go in a clockwise or counterclockwise rotation and continue folding it and kind of pushing up over that paper to make sure it's got a nice crisp edge. You'll eventually end up with one little hexagon, and you can see where my folds kind of overlap one another and it's nice and crisp and even. And then I will prepare those in a batch. So once I have all 7 hexagons for one, I kind of clip them together and then they're ready to go. So I've got like little bundles of these just sitting around waiting to be sewn together. So then when it comes time to go ahead and sew, I really prefer to stitch every single hexagon to the middle by just sewing this seam on the inner edge. I don't bother messing with these little side seams yet. So once I've sewn those, then I go ahead, and these are still loose, so then I fold it, and that gives me a nice little line to follow. But sometimes that'll move while you're sewing, so either to hold that in line, I use one of these little sewing clips and hold it on the side there, or I'll use these Sew Tight magnets. They're really handy, so it's just a little magnetic bar, and then you place it on either side, and that really holds it firm and tight. I find that this takes a little bit more time to use the magnets. However, they really hold well. And if by chance you have, concerns with your wrists, or they get tired over time, or they're not able to really pull them apart, Sew Tight is awesome, and they came out with a less strength magnet, and they are normally the yellow color. So if you have, issues with dexterity, possibly arthritis, definitely check them out because it's a very accessible product that you can still use. So now that we've talked about the general premise of English paper piecing, I want to go through a little bit of the products that I have found are very helpful. So most sewers have, heard of the thimble. If I'm going to use a thimble, I really prefer this leather thimble. It's made by Clover. They come in a couple different sizes. I believe this is the small. Yes, it is. They have a little indentation there so you can see the size. And those are really helpful if you want to wear them on your thumb, your index finger, or just wherever you find those points that you continue to have a callus or a blister forming. So in addition to the traditional thimble, I also really like these polka dots. They come in this 10 here, and I believe there's 3 sheets per 10. So what's really nice is they look like this, these little sticker dots. And I've actually only ever used one, because what I do is I just stick it back on this paper or the plastic, and I'm able to re-peel it off and use it again. So normally where I get a little bump going is right here on the knuckle of my index finger. So I'll put that there, and it prevents me from, continuing to wear that finger out. However, I've also found that over time, I start fighting this little polka dot, and I continue to poke myself around it instead of actually on it. So another trick I found is to just go ahead and use a good old Band-Aid. Wrap it around your finger, and it's going to, cover that entire area, and it also really stays in place and it doesn't slip around. So you're able to, continue focusing on your sewing and not stabbing your finger, because the Band-Aid is just there. So something I have not used but plan to use is this thread wax. It also comes in a cute little jar. And I believe it's got some actual natural beeswax. And so what you'll do is just run your thread through that, and it kind of helps keep your thread from getting all stringy and knotted like that. It just kind of keeps it, 2 strands running together really nicely and not bulking up and slowing you down. So it's also really important to make sure that whatever thread you're using blends really well with your fabric. For example, while sewing these hexagons, I'm going to, pull out a different one so you get to look at something new. While sewing these hexagons, you don't want to have a thread that overpowers your fabric. So a thread that I really enjoy using, both for piecing and hand sewing, is this Aurifil green color. The actual color is 2902. And as you can see, this is what I used on this hexagon. You can't see it. It really blends in well. And it even blends in well for darker colors too. So that's what I've used for piecing this entire quilt, except for when I go around and add the background pieces. So when I'm adding the background pieces here, Of course, I'm using the black Aurifil because it really helps hide my stitches. So a few other products that I really enjoy while English paper piecing are these simple, they're called super snip scissors. And to be honest, I don't even know how many pair I have because I like having them and just tossing them like in my project bag and having them at a moment's notice and I'm ready to go. I've got all my sewing together. So kind of going along with that trend is I like having these little tins, so you can find them. These are Ruby Star Society. They're made by Moda, and I like them. You could also use like an Altoids tin if you're just wanting to repurpose. But it's really nice to just, you know, have a little piece of scrap fabric with a couple needles, both of my thread colors, and this is kind of like a little portable on-the-go box that I have. So that's really nice. You may also want a needle minder. So this is a magnetic little pin. So you can, you know, clip it to the side of your hexagons themselves. You can pin it to your shirt. But really it kind of helps to make sure that your needle's not just floating around, like you're not sticking it in the side of the couch, holding it in your mouth, you know, all the bad habits that we quilters have. So that's a really good tool. I also really like my magnetic needle book. So of course I can't deny a good pun, so stay sharp. And then it just opens and it's a flat little sheet where I can hold my needles and, you know, any thread that I've already got threaded through them. You could even, you know, go ahead and pre-thread a few needles so you're not stopping to thread all the time. That's a really nice product. So of course, then you're also going to have a really good pair of scissors that are nice and sharp to be able to cut all those little fabric hexagons. These are just a nice pair that I got, and I've only used them for fabric, of course. These are also from Tula Pink, and of course they're just pretty. Like, they're nice to have. I love to look at them, like that iridescent, like, it's just gorgeous. So the more scissors, the better. Just make sure they're only for fabric, right? So like I've said, English paper piecing is really nice to just have as a sewing project to just fill in downtime. Whether you're traveling in a car, watching TV of an evening, maybe even watching like your kid's baseball game or something at a park. It's really nice just to have this. It's very meditative that you can just take on the go, and maybe, who knows, like you sitting out sewing might inspire someone new to also pick it up or say, I've got the confidence now, I'm going to go ahead and bring that to the baseball game as well. So I really like these canvas bags to keep my project and my supplies organized. So I found that this one's a really good size to hold my completed hexies once I've got them sewn. And then of course I've got a little bag to kind of hold some of my scissors and notions in as well. You're probably wondering what in the world I'm shuffling around. Well, I'm removing all of my notions to show you this. It's probably an unexpected little item that I really enjoy having for English paper piecing, but it's a metal cookie sheet. I really like this because, one, I can use it as a work surface when I'm just sitting on the couch or even riding in a car. And then it also works great because then my little magnets stick to it and it doesn't move around. So say like if I don't want my project moving, I can do that, or it can even help me when like deciding the layout, or especially when I'm being particular and kind of fussy cutting my hexagons to make sure they line up. So like I can really plan it out well just using the magnets on the cookie sheet. So then I can go and just stitch one and then kind of move around as I go. Please chime in the comments and let me know your favorite tools and how long you've been English paper piecing. I am so excited to break into this tack order bundle and go ahead and mix it in with all these fabrics that I've been curating. So I can't imagine like how pretty this is going to be with Tula Pink's original designs. Kind of mixing them in, blending them in, and really pairing them in a way that they really show off. So if you haven't already, go ahead and go back to my most recent video, the one that I posted right before this one, to watch my plan for this Tula Pink quilt and just kind of see more of the hexagons that I've created. I only have 17 more to go, and then I will be adding those background fabrics in and stitching them all together. So I hope to continue sharing this process with you. Please subscribe to my channel to stay updated.